Assalamu alaikum, namaste and sasriyakal. Hello my lovely English students and welcome to a very interesting lesson. Today we're going to look at a speech given by Shah Rukh at the Edinburgh University, and we're just going to unpack some of the words, phrases, expressions and idioms that Shah Rukh uses during this speech. Now the whole point of this is just to take a break from the more serious studies that you're doing. Studying for IELTS can be very, very stressful, and I know a lot of you have high hopes and high dreams, but the main thing when you're learning the English language, you need to think of language learning like exercising. Now the more you exercise, the stronger you become, the fitter you become. But it's only through exercising that you will become stronger and fitter. And it's the same way with language learning. The more you speak, the more you listen, and the more you practice your English, the better it will become. And in preparing for your IELTS, one thing you need to do, and this is one thing that a lot of students don't tend to do, they tend to kind of zone in and focus on the materials, the IELTS practice tests and all these kind of things, which is good. But you need to expose yourself to the English language as widely as possible. You need to listen to everything you can. Listen to the radio, read newspapers, watch television programs, speak with your friends in English. Do not be embarrassed. There is no time for embarrassment. There is no time to be shy. Language learning takes courage. And having said that now, I'm just going to jump in to the lesson today. By the end of this lesson, you would have learned 26 new phrases, expressions, idioms and words. We will watch the video together and I will pause the video at various points and we will look at some of the language more closely. Enjoy and have some fun learning English.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here. This is a polite way of saying I'm happy to be here. So you can use this phrase in introductions to formal presentations and on special occasions. I mean, you could even say during your IELTS speaking exam, if the examiner says welcome to the test, and you can say it's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. All right, how this works is that I have to give you a lecture.
How this works is, this is a phrase we use when we want to show you the procedure of something. For example, I could say how this works is first we will play the video and then study some of the vocabulary used by SRK. So it's a way of letting the audience know what to expect.
So I prepared some. It's very thick, but it's because the font is big. So I'll go on and on until you guys get bored. You can stop me halfway and ask questions or... Okay. First of all, it's an honor for me to receive this doctorate today.
It's an honor for me. This is another great expression which you will hear again and again in formal presentations and on special occasions, and it's something that I really encourage you to absorb into your vocabulary, especially if you're going to a university or if you are planning on joining a business and you have to give presentations. It's an honor means I feel very respected or privileged, and that respect or privilege is something that you do not accept easily. It's something that you recognize. For example, I could say, I had the honor of meeting Her Majesty the Queen. I had the honor of meeting SRK at the University of Edinburgh. I didn't meet SRK at the University of Edinburgh. I wish I did, but I didn't. But this is a phrase people use to show other more important people that they are very, very glad and happy and privileged to be in the presence of that person.
So thank you everyone who's involved with this. And humbled is a word often used by people in my profession.
I'm very humbled. Another great opening phrase that Shah Rukh Khan uses here, which really makes him come across as very likable. The adjective humbled means feeling modest or less important, often due to respect for something or someone, or after a particular experience. For example, we could say, when he met his teacher, he felt humbled. And normally we feel humbled when we meet somebody or recognize that someone else who is in our presence is far superior than us or better than us. So we acknowledge perhaps their knowledge or their skills. But you can also be humbled by an experience. You can say that I was very confident about passing my driving test and I failed. It was a very humbling experience. You can say that I was going to take my driving test and I was very, very confident. I was overly confident. But the whole experience of failing my driving test humbled me.
You meet actors, they'll give, I'm very humbled, we all. I dislike the hypocritical.
Hypocritical. It's an adjective. This describes someone who acts in a way that contradicts what they say or believe. For example, if someone says lying is wrong, but then lies themselves, they are being hypocritical. They are a hypocrite.
Obsequious.
Obsequious. Now this is a very, very advanced level vocabulary, but I think it's worth exploring here. The word obsequious is pronounced as obsequious. Obsequious. This refers to someone who is overly eager to please or obey, often in a way that seems insincere or excessive. It's like being too flattering or submissive. So for example, have you ever met somebody who is being so nice to you that it doesn't come across as real, it comes across as fake? So we often have this, for example, you hear this term flattery. If somebody is trying to flatter you so much in an insincere way, you can describe them as being obsequious. They don't really mean it from their heart. They're just doing it for show.
I dislike the hypocritical, obsequious connotation of it in these contexts.
Connotation. This is a word that is worth learning for your IELTS exam, especially for those doing general or academic IELTS actually. So this is the idea of feeling that a word invokes beyond its literal or primary meaning. For example, the word home not only means a place where one lives, but it is also has connotations of warmth, safety and comfort. So we could say the word home has a warm connotation, making people think of comfort and safety. So for example, you could use this for an idea behind a word that you've used. If you say, for example, Pakistan has connotations of family for me because all of my relatives are there. You're trying to say that this word brings up other feelings, ideas in you that are not obvious in the literal word itself.
I dislike the hypocritical, obsequious connotation of it in these contexts, so I'm not going to use it, but I will say that such occasions have a way of putting me right in my place, which is right there. So thank you everyone for putting me in my place.
Putting me right in my place means someone showed me I was wrong in a strong way. So for example, Has your father or mother ever put you in your place when you've done something wrong? Or when you think you've done something right, and then your father or mother puts you in your place and says, hang on, that's incorrect, or that was wrong. For example, I could say, I thought I knew everything about history, but the teacher's facts ended up putting me right in my place. And normally we use this to basically admit our faults as well, and admit that we were wrong.
I do get invited to conferences and inaugurations now and then to speak. And when I receive the invite, I also receive my brief. It's usually about success and my tips on it.
Receive my brief. Okay, a brief. This is being used in a different sense from what you might think already. So if I make a brief statement, it means that I make a very short statement. Here, to receive a brief means to get a short summary or important information about something. For example, I can say before starting the project, the team will receive a brief about what needs to be done. So it's a kind of a set of short points about what the person needs to do. It's a set of short instructions that a person needs to consider. For example, here Shah Rukh was sent a brief about what he should include in this lecture.
Invite, I also receive my brief. It's usually about success and my tips on it. Not my toes. Those are covered by I will never show my toes clause in my contracts. They're very ugly. And it's my attempt at gender equality. My co-actresses have no cleavage clause, I have no toes clause.
A clause. Now this is a legal term. In law, a clause is a section in a legal document that states a specific rule, condition or term. It's like a rule or a part of a contract. So for example, he just said that the clause in his contract, and he's being very funny here. He said the clause in his contract stipulated that he mustn't show his toes, and his female stars should not show their cleavage. This is the clause in their contract. So for example, we could say the insurance policy includes a clause for natural disasters. So in this insurance policy, there is a clause or a term or condition or rule for natural disasters. So should a natural disaster occur, then there will be a certain set of rules and terms that need to be followed by the insurance company.
Not my toes. Those are covered by I will never show my toes clause in my contracts. They're very ugly. And it's my attempt at gender equality. My co-actresses have no cleavage clause, I have no toes clause. Now most people believe Bollywood stars aren't insightful about anything other than the fateful occurrences which made them stars in the first place. But I've had the odd divergence from being taken for stupid though.
Odd divergence. SRK is using some wonderful words and phrases here. So an odd divergence, again, this is quite advanced IELTS. An odd divergence means a strange or unusual difference or change from what is expected or usual. So the word odd means strange or unusual on its own, and divergence means a situation where things go in different directions or become different from each other. So for example, people often say he diverted from the discussion. It means he took a different way while we were talking, an unusual one. Or we also say he digressed. For example, we could say his sudden interest in art was an odd divergence from his usual love of sports. So for example, you could have an odd divergence by taking interest suddenly in something that people would not expect you to take interest in. For example, my brother now is learning to play the guitar, and he hasn't always been musical, and I consider that to be quite an odd divergence because he's usually a man of science and engineering and not very artistic.
But I've had the odd divergence from being taken for stupid, though. Recently, I got an email from an International Association of Advertising, and they said, "Dear Mr. Khan, the advertising community would like you to come and address them on globalization and disruptive marketing."
Globalization, a noun. Globalization means increasing connections and dependence between countries, especially in trade, culture and technology. Now pay attention to this because it might come up as a topic in your speaking or your writing test. It's a very fashionable topic and it's quite academic, but it's also something that you see in popular culture. You see this word being used in popular culture. People often talk about the effects of globalization. So for example, you could use the following sentence: thanks to globalization, we can enjoy foods from all over the world. Now, globalization can have its positives and negatives, or its pros and cons. So you might be asked to talk about the pros and cons of globalization and offer your opinion. So it's something worth reading up on if you are to take your IELTS speaking exam soon. It's definitely something that you should go on to Wikipedia or watch some YouTube videos about just globalization and the effects it has on societies and cultures and economies all over the world. Disruptive. Well, I'm being quite disruptive because I keep pausing this video. And I must say SRK is delivering a wonderful speech. Disruptive means causing interruptions or problems, often leading to change. And this is often in a sudden way, so in a quick way. For example, we can say smartphones were a disruptive technology, changing how we communicate. So our phones that we have now are quite disruptive in our day-to-day lives now. Can anyone remember a time before we had phones, mobile phones?
From an International Association of Advertising, and they said, "Dear Mr. Khan, the advertising community would like you to come and address them on globalization and disruptive marketing." And I spent the next 4 hours on Google trying to assimilate.
Assimilate. I love this word, assimilate. It's a verb. The noun is assimilation, but to assimilate means to adopt and absorb into a larger group or culture. That's quite a social, cultural meaning for the term. But Shah Rukh Khan uses this in a different way to describe how he absorbed information or knowledge, or was trying to absorb information or knowledge. So he went onto Google to learn about this topic and tried to assimilate, to learn quickly the knowledge on this topic. So for example, you could say she quickly assimilated into the new school, making many friends. Meaning, she joined the new school and she quickly found her feet, as we say, another idiom. If you find your feet, you manage to get used to a new situation or circumstance. But SRK here is talking about assimilating or absorbing information and knowledge.
And I spent the next 4 hours on Google trying to assimilate the disruptiveness of innovating a product to match its market.
Innovating something, to innovate. Another verb word I think you should really learn for your IELTS exam. If you innovate something, you are inventing something new or original. For example, I could say I spent time innovating a new product. Shah Rukh Khan says the same thing here. He tried to think of something new and original to say in the speech he gave to these people who work in that marketing sector. To match something. This is pretty simple. If we match something, it means to pair it with another item that goes well together. For example, we could say he tried to match his new idea with existing social media trends. So he's trying to think of something that goes together with this particular topic.
I was on Google trying to assimilate the disruptiveness of innovating a product to match its market. But it was one of those rare days when even Google can't help you.
A rare day. If you have a rare day or experience, you mean to say that it was unlike or different from any other day in your life. So for example, I could say scuba diving in the Indian Ocean is a rare experience for most. So something that is rare is something that doesn't happen all the time. In English, we sometimes say it's a rarity, which means that it's something unique. This jewel, this diamond that I have in my hand, the Koh-i-Noor, for example, is a rarity. It's something unique.
One of those rare days when even Google can't help you. A day when you need to leave Google and ask for deliverance from God.
Deliverance from God. Now he's speaking in very religious terms here. He says, if you ask for deliverance from God, you are basically asking help from God, especially something you have no control over. For example, all believers of religions ask for the deliverance of God, meaning that they always ask help from God. In Christianity, they say, deliver us from evil, which means help us against evil.
Leave Google and ask for deliverance from God. But I have a film releasing soon, so I don't want to take extra favors from God before the film releases. So I chose business over knowledge. I did the next best thing.
To do the next best thing. This is a great expression to use, to do the next best thing. If you say you did the next best thing, it means your first plan didn't happen. It's like doing plan B because plan A failed. For example, we could say, we couldn't book a table at the restaurant, so we did the next best thing. We ordered a takeaway. So, you couldn't do something, and then you thought, okay, what's the next best thing after this?
I sat on my IO Hawk. Have you guys seen that Segway thing? Yeah, so I went on my IO Hawk and told everybody, a gathering like yours, that there is nothing I can tell you that you already don't know. And people, when they're told they're smart, they like it. You're such an august gathering of people and blah, blah, blah.
An august gathering of. This is another phrase people use in order to show respect to people who are better than them. So again, Shah Rukh Khan is being humble here. He's showing humility. He's saying that I'm in a gathering of people that are well respected. So an august gathering of people means a meeting of very important people. For example, you could use the following sentence. It was an august gathering of world leaders at the G20 summit.
Such an august gathering of people and blah, blah, blah. Instead, let me entertain you because you all deserve a break. And before the organizers could interject, I started thrusting my pelvic into their faces.
To interject, another great verb. To interject means to interrupt something suddenly. For example, while they were arguing, I interjected and told them to stop this right now. So SRK is being funny here. To thrust, the verb to thrust. He said that he thrust his pelvic into their faces. So to thrust is a verb. It means to push into something quite aggressively. Here he is talking about dancing and moving his hip or pelvic. So I started dancing and thrusting my pelvic into their faces. It was funny.
Before the organizers could interject, I started thrusting my pelvic into their faces and broke out into the one and only intellectual thing I know how to do, the lungi dance. So I got away with it without being humbled. It always pays to be a better dancer than your advertisers.
It always pays to. Now this is a great phrase that people use. If you say something always pays, it means that it is always beneficial in the long term usually. For example, you could say, it always pays to get up early in the morning before the shops get busy. So if I get up early in the morning and I go to the shops before it gets busy, it will pay me in the long term. So the payment obviously here isn't talking about money, it's just talking about an overall benefit of an action. For example, you could say, if we employ this marketing strategy, I think it will pay off in the long run.
With it without being humbled, it always pays to be a better dancer than your advertisers. And what's more, they seem to have a good time. But that was a conference, and this is a doctorate from a prestigious University of Edinburgh.
Prestigious is an adjective. Prestigious means highly respected and admired, often because of being important or of high quality. For example, she received an award from a prestigious university. For example, Shah Rukh here, he's talking about the prestigious University of Edinburgh, which is actually I think it's one of the top 10 universities in the UK.
This University of Edinburgh. So I'm going to try to sound intelligent and insightful, especially for you today. One of the subjects on the list of 5 I was sent for my speech today was life lessons. So for whatever it is worth, here goes.
Whatever it's worth, or whatever it is worth, is a great phrase. For what it's worth is a phrase used to present a piece of information or opinion while acknowledging that it may not be very important or valuable to the listener. It's often used to offer a thought or insight modestly. So you could say, I just want to say, for whatever it's worth, I think your idea is really innovative. You could say, whatever it's worth, I really don't think we should take this course of action because I feel that there's too much risk involved. So it's a great way to express an idea but also show humility. It means that you're trying to say that I know what I'm about to say may not be the most important thing and you may not take me seriously, but I'm going to give my contribution anyway. And here it is.
Let me start at the very, very beginning. Whatever I've learned of life has been at the movies. Actually, the first few films that I did in my career and titles were given to them very nearly formulated whatever I know of life. And that's how I'm going to pass it on to you.
Okay guys, that brings us to the end of our lesson and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot from SRK. It's a brilliant speech. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube. And if you liked this video, then let me know if you would like more lessons like this. Something a bit more relaxing, something a bit more fun, and something that will definitely help your listening as well as your speaking. And try to use these words in your day-to-day speech and in your writing. See you all soon and thank you for watching.